Friends, today's movie is about a town whose population neither increases nor decreases. It has been stuck at 436 since the last 100 years. Suppose someone comes into this town, then a person present in the town dies by himself. If someone tries to run away from here, then some accident happens with him, or he disappears. After all, what is the secret of this town? Why can only 436 people live here? To answer all these questions, welcome to this movie Population 436. In the beginning of the movie, we see a woman who is about to give birth to her child. Meanwhile, we see a man running away from the police. We see a red envelope in the car of the man who is running away. As soon as the police car is equal to the man's car suddenly gets into an accident, which immediately causes his death. As soon as the man dies, the woman delivers the child, or the man's car crashed. We see the population of Rockwell Falls on the bureau. The name of this town is Rockwell Falls, and the population here is 436. And as we just saw, a child was born to balance the population of this man's death. Meanwhile, after the delivery of the baby, the time is set at 4:36 minutes. Now we will know the mystery behind the population of this town. After this, we see the daughter of that man, Amanda, who starts crying about the secret of this town during her father's funeral, but then the priests stop her. For now, the next day, a man named Steve comes to know about the location of Rockwell Falls, which the Census Bureau has sent here. The Census Bureau actually does their survey according to the population of any city. Steve is also an officer of the city. Steve has come to know the secret behind the population of Rockwell Falls. For now, Steve stops at a gas station, and he tries to know the way to Rockwell Falls, but they go without answering him. That's why Steve finds the way himself and reaches Rockwell Falls. But before entering the town, he sees a girl who is doing horse riding. The girl suddenly falls off the horse, and Steve's attention goes towards her, because of which his car's two tires punctured together. Anyway, Steve goes to see the girl who tells him to take care of his car. It will be punctured and you are going to go to Rockwell Falls. Before that, get a tow truck from the previous town and go back with your car. Here Steve doesn't understand why this girl is telling him not to go to Rockwell Falls. After he goes, Steve comes to his car. Then he sees that a policeman is coming from Rockwell Falls. This is the same policeman we saw in the beginning of the movie. His name is Bobby, and he also asks if he can find a tow truck here. And Bobby finds out that Steve is going to Rockwell Falls. He first refuses to go. But when Steve says that he has come here from the Census Bureau, Bobby calls his senior and tells him about this, who was with the mayor of the town. Then they tell Bobby to bring Steve to the town, because he came from the Census Bureau. Bobby tells Steve that, okay, you come with me, I will tow the car. Steve agrees to go with them. As soon as they enter Rockwell Falls, all of the people there are looking at Steve in a strange way. After this, Steve meets Bobby's senior and mayor. Our mayor orders Bobby to arrange for Steve to stay somewhere. Then Steve asks the mayor about the local census office here. Mayor says that today you rest for now. Tomorrow you will know about the census officer. Meanwhile, a child comes and tells the mayor that the farmer's wife's health has deteriorated. So the mayor goes to see him with Steve and Bobby, where the sick woman's husband sees Steve. With anger, Steve didn't understand that what he did, that everyone is looking at him like this. Here Dr. Grever looks at him and tells him that this woman is dying slowly, and all this started when Steve came to this town. Means that a curse was working here, which only keeps the population of this town 436. Meanwhile, Mayor advises Steve to respect the traditions and the people of this place. After saying this, Mayor goes on his way. Then Bobby takes Steve to a woman's house, where Steve's stay is arranged. Here, Steve meets his housekeeper's daughter, Christine, whom he likes a lot. Now there is a special kind of conference in this town, where all these people put some chits in one box. Mayor tells everyone to behave well with Steve from tomorrow. He should feel like home. Whether he wants it or not, whether he agrees or not, he has become the resident of Rockwell Falls. He will definitely get some way to stay here. Now the mayor tells that we need a special host for our special festival to vote for her, and there is a name of an old woman. That woman is given the same red envelope as we saw in the beginning with that car crash guy. This means that something was happening in this envelope, because of which he was running away from this town. Now we will know what is the secret of this envelope. For now, we only know that people have chosen this old lady as the host for the upcoming festival. On the other hand, Steve has dinner with his landlady and his family, during which he tells her that he is single and he has no one. After hearing this, Steve's landlady says that you will soon become a part of our family. You will not be alone, and as soon as she hears this, Christine leaves, which makes Steve feel very strange, because he was not able to understand what she was saying. Anyway, this is the first night of Steve in this town. So he has a strange dream in which he sees a cross and a doll. He wakes up from that dream and gets a little disturbed and goes to drink water in the kitchen. So he meets Christine. They talk to each other. It was clear that Steve and Christine started liking each other. The next morning, when Steve goes out to roam in town, he sees that everyone is doing very well today. Then he goes to his landlady's cafe, where he sees that everyone is congratulating the old lady who has been chosen for the festival as a host. Here, Christine tells Steve that this festival is a part of our tradition. Then he cuts off Christine's words and says, "Do you know how life is outside this town?" Christine says that I wish I could leave this place. Before Steve asks her something, Christine's mother calls her. When Steve reaches the Census Department office and checks the records, he finds out that it has only been maintained once, meaning that record. When he asks a woman who works here, she says that there has been no change in the population here for many years. Steve sees that this lady is saying this despite being pregnant, which is very strange. Steve asks her, where some people disappear suddenly. "Will you tell me something about this?" The woman says that you ask the mayor yourself. He will tell you everything. Steve sees something else here, that in the last 100 years, the population of this town has neither decreased from 436 and nor increased. Maybe that's why there was no need to maintain data. But how can this be? It was a mystery. So to get answers to his questions, Steve goes to the festival venue and meets the mayor, and asks him about the people who suddenly disappeared. Mayor says that you think something like this must have happened, and if it seems, I will definitely answer it. Just let the festival be over. Now Steve doesn't get an answer, so he roams around everywhere, but he doesn't know anything until evening. Now, after the evening, Bobby takes Steve to the bar, where suddenly the husband of the same sick woman comes and points a gun to him. He says that this is because of you that my wife is in this condition. Meanwhile, Bobby comes in the middle and takes the gun of that man and sends him away. Now, after his departure, Steve asks Bobby about this. Bobby says that he is scared of losing his wife and he has lost his mind and nothing. He will be fine after this festival. Don't worry. Now this festival thing confuses Steve even more. The next day, Steve goes out to the town again, where he sees that people are always trying to look happy, but they are not happy from inside. Along with that, some kids and people are talking like robots. Meanwhile, we see Amanda on the other side, who dreams exactly like Steve did. Amanda was admitted to the Criver Clinic at the time. Now, seeing Steve worried, Bobby tells him to do one thing. Go and meet Dr. Grever. You will get to know about the death census here. Maybe this will help you. After reaching Grever's clinic, Steve sees that some people like robots are coming out of here, as if someone has done something to them. For now, after the doctor's is free, Steve meets him, who tells Steve that the death census here is absolutely normal, and this is just a coincidence. The population here has been only 436 people for many years. For now, Steve asks Grever about the patients who look like robots. I am not sure what kind of disease they have, because of which they think that they should leave this town. Now these people are trying to escape from the town, in case they hurt themselves. So I have to give them a treatment through electric shock, because the disease is related to the brain. When the griever is telling all this, suddenly he hears the scream of a girl who is no one else but Amanda. When asked about Amanda, the griever says that Amanda actually has a disease called schizophrenia. So I have to admit her here. Yes. Now, even after all the inquiries and investigations, when Steve doesn't get anything, he decides to wait for the festival, because then he may get answers to his questions. Now, on the day of the festival, Steve sees that the old woman who was chosen as the host, she herself hangs herself and gives her life. After this, the festival begins. Here, Steve understood that the people of this town do some kind of ritual and keep the population here only 436. If someone tries to run away, then he is killed and disappeared, because if this lady was chosen, the farmer's sick wife would be saved. The farmer was thinking that if my wife dies because of Steve's arrival, Steve also knew that these people would not let him go from here. That's why Steve tries to run away, which the griever gives an injection and makes him unconscious. When Steve's eyes open, the mayor and the rest of the people try to explain to him that we have to keep the population here. Otherwise, everything will be ruined because of that curse, actually almost 100 years ago. The population of this town, when it was 436, a man came here who used to sing black magic. He started his activities after coming here. When people came to know about it, they burned that man, that while dying, the man cursed this town that the population of this town will always be 436. If it is increased or decreased even one, the people living here will not be able to live happily. After that day, this curse proved right after a few months. After a child's birth, after 3 days, the town was destroyed. Then the people who survived settled it again. And because they saw the consequences of taking the curse lightly, they always maintained the population of this place at 436. That's why Steve can't go anywhere now. But one day, Steve runs away. And then to distract the people in town, he sets fire to a garage. Now because Amanda and Christine both wanted to leave from here, first Steve takes Amanda out of the clinic. Then he goes to Christine, who was not even able to move, because when she said to escape from here, then her mother made her like this through Dr. Griever. A little part of the head of Christine falls off after touching, and she had become a robot, so he leaves her and goes in the car with Amanda. On the way, Bobby and his senior officer are standing here. The senior officer says that the girl from the census department has had twins today, so Bobby kill both of them. In the past few days, Bobby became a good friend of Steve, so he kills his senior and then leaves with Steve. But then Steve and Amanda see that the car had the same things as they had seen in the dream. That means it was their death dream. They see the weather deteriorating in front of them. Then the lightning strikes, which causes Steve and Amanda's accident and their death too. Now because Steve was suddenly disappeared, the Census Bureau got his resignation. That's why they sent an officer named Frank to Rockwell Fall this time. Where just like Steve, Frank's tire also gets punctured. Bobby also helps him, and the funny thing is that after the death of Steve, Amanda and Bobby, 3 people were reduced. Then only that woman gave birth to twin children, and now Frank has also come to complete 436. Means again the population of this town is 436. If you like